Welcome back, everyone. Admittedly, I had planned a different topic for this week's video, but given the wild ride that Nikola Motor had last week, I couldn't pass up an opportunity to discuss it. If you haven't seen my video on the Nikola Badger, I'll link it on the card at the end of this video. But to summarize, the Badger is a drawing of a truck that Nikola has hyped into a gigantic market cap. We've got a lot of information to cover, so buckle up. For quite some time, a number of people have had their doubts about Nikola Motor's various claims about their hydrogen electric hybrid vehicles, and many have called them a fraud. However, last Tuesday, it looked like Nikola might actually be the real deal when it announced that it was teaming up with General Motors to produce the Badger pickup truck. For producing the Badger, GM is getting an 11% stake in Nikola, about $2 billion. It's interesting to note that GM got some very favorable terms as part of this deal and can actually start selling Nikola shares before the first truck even rolls off of the assembly line. GM will also get the right to nominate one director to the board of directors. After the announcement, Nikola shares exploded, rising over 50% in a day. However, there were some interesting details that came out as part of that partnership announcement. Namely, that after having touted their advanced hydrogen fuel cell and battery technology, Nikola announced that the Badger would be using hydrogen and electric technology provided by GM. At first glance, that seemed odd, but it wasn't until Thursday that things became a bit more clear as to why this might be the case. You see, on Thursday, hedge fund managers and self-proclaimed forensic financial research firm Hindenburg Research published a scathing report on Nikola Motor and its CEO Trevor Milton. The report details Trevor Milton's questionable past business dealings prior to Nikola up to this latest announcement of a partnership with GM. I'm going to run through the high, or shall we say low points of the report. But before I do, it is important to note that Hindenburg is not an unbiased source for this information. They have a short position in shares of Nikola Corp, and it is in their best interest to see its stock price decline. While the information provided by Hindenburg might be accurate, we also need to realize that this is one side of the story, and Nikola has yet to provide a public response to these accusations. The report doesn't pull any punches and opens with a blistering attack on Trevor Milton, essentially saying that he has a track record of misleading customers, partners, and investors, and claiming technology produced by other companies as his own. The first example given is an alarm sales company that Milton founded called St. George Security and Alarm. The report states that Trevor sold the business for $300,000 to a buyer who claims Trevor overpromised and resulted in a total loss for the acquirer. Additionally, Trevor's 50-50 partner stated that he was told the exit price was much lower than $300,000 and that he netted $100,000 for his 50% stake. Trevor then started an online classified ads website that sold cars called upillar.com, which eventually failed. After that, he started a company called DeHybrid Inc. with an engineer named Mike Shrout, who had developed a compressed natural gas conversion technology for diesel engines. DeHybrid actually got off to a good start and landed a partnership with a company called Swift Transportation to market DeHybrid's conversion technology. Swift paid $2 million for a 9% stake in DeHybrid and additionally loaned them $322,000. However, the deal hit some snags early on after DeHybrid only delivered 5 of the 10 trucks that it had promised to Swift. Swift filed a lawsuit against DeHybrid, alleging that the performance of those trucks didn't live up to the initial promises of DeHybrid and that DeHybrid executives had misappropriated funds for their personal use or uses unrelated to the development of DeHybrid's technology. Leading up to the lawsuit, Milton had also reached out to other potential investors, claiming that the Swift contract was worth $250 to $300 million, while in reality, it was only worth about $16 million. Additionally, Milton had inflated the fuel savings which Swift had experienced, as well as the amount of testing the trucks had undergone. After the Swift fallout, DeHybrid sought a buyout from a company called Sustainable Power Group LLC. However, 1 month after signing a term sheet, Sustainable Power backed out of the deal, citing significant misrepresentations during their due diligence process. In 2012, while still in litigation, Milton and his father started a new company with a very similar name, DeHybrid Systems. Marketing materials for DeHybrid Systems seemed to make misleading claims about when the company had actually been formed and suggested to potential partners that DeHybrid Systems was simply a continuation of DeHybrid. Eventually, in 2014, DeHybrid Systems was acquired by Worthington for roughly $16 million, which represented an approximately 80% stake, valuing the company at around $20 million. In interviews with a former DeHybrid Systems employee, he stated that he was out in the field fixing and concealing potentially fatal issues with their product so that Worthington wouldn't find out. Next up, the report details that Nikola, then known as BlueGen Tech, had entered into an agreement with EV Drive based on Milton's supposed leadership role at Worthington, as well as BlueGen Tech's proprietary turbine technology. However, it appears that BlueGen Tech didn't actually own any proprietary turbine technology. And 2 months after BlueGen Tech had represented to EV Drive that it owned the technology, it was in negotiations with another company called Brayton Energy to purchase their turbines. This leads us to 2015. About a year after Worthington had signed the DeHybrid deal, they had identified problems with the acquisition and wrote down a $2.3 million impairment. Additionally, they wrote down another $1.5 million impairment in 2016. The report then moves to 2016. BlueGen Tech has become Nikola at this point and is working on developing the Nikola One semi-truck. Nikola claimed multiple times throughout the year that they would be revealing a fully functioning prototype at the end of the year. At the reveal in December of 2016, Milton claimed multiple times during his presentation that the Nikola One was a fully functioning truck. However, Bloomberg later identified that the truck was not fully functioning, to which Milton responded that he never said it was a fully functioning truck and threatened to sue Bloomberg. In spite of claiming 4 months before the reveal that Nikola had engineered the holy grail of hydrogen technology for trucking, there was no evidence that it had even begun development. At the show, the Nikola One donned H2 stickers, but in reality, the truck was not equipped with any hydrogen technology. The truck actually had natural gas turbines, but they were buried deep in the engine bay so that they couldn't be seen. The truck itself wasn't even capable of driving and couldn't power itself, so wires were snaked up through the stage into the truck to power the infotainment screens, which notably were mostly just static web pages that had been loaded onto the in-cabin displays. Shortly after the event, Nikola signed multiple partnership deals for fuel cells and hydrogen. And shortly after that, all work on the Nikola One ceased, according to former employees, as it had served its purpose of garnering the attention of other companies and investors. Fast forward to 2018, when Nikola released the video of the Nikola One semi seemingly moving under its own power at a high rate of speed. However, according to a former employee, the video was actually shot at a remote location where the truck was towed to the top of a gradual hill and just rolled down. Hindenburg identified the location where this took place and tested the SUV rolling from a stop to an eventual top speed of 56 miles an hour for over 2 miles. The report then touches upon the luxury version of the Nikola NZT off-road vehicle, which was announced as an upscale version of the NZT. It was slated to be fully enclosed and have high-end features like air conditioning. After the show, Nikola scrapped the design for the NZT because it couldn't be manufactured as presented, and there wasn't even room for an air conditioning system behind the dashboard. Then the report touches upon a claim made by Milton in April of 2019 that the Nikola Headquarters was completely off the grid and had a 3.5 megawatt solar installation on its roof. However, satellite images from 4 months after Milton made that claim show that there are no solar panels on the roof of the headquarters building. In November of 2019, Nikola announced a game-changing battery technology prototype. This battery technology was claimed to have doubled the capacity of batteries that were currently being produced. Milton even claimed the technology to have an estimated value of hundreds of billions of dollars. Billions! However, it was later learned that the battery technology Milton had referenced was actually developed by another company, which Nikola had signed a letter of intent to acquire for just $56.5 million. That would have been quite the return on investment if the battery technology had actually existed. As it turns out, the battery technology was actually vaporware, and Nikola later sued the company in March of 2020. This might not have been an issue for Nikola if documents didn't show that they were still hyping the technology in February of 2020, despite learning of the fraudulent issues surrounding the battery company in December of 2019. The report then goes on to discuss some of Nikola's battery and fuel cell technology claims, which are rebuffed by employees from some of Nikola's former partners, with one employee of a former partner calling Nikola's technology hot air. There is some discussion related to Milton's claims of being able to lower the cost of hydrogen production to unheard of levels, but the report then cites a July 2020 interview with Milton in which he acknowledges that Nikola doesn't actually produce any hydrogen at all at this point. Not quite as interesting, but perhaps somewhat telling. The report discusses some of the Nikola employees whose skill sets seem, let's say, underwhelming for their position titles. For example, Nikola's director of hydrogen production is actually Trevor Milton's brother, whose previous job was self-employed construction work involving paving driveways and applying epoxy to staircases. The next red flag that Hindenburg mentions is that in spite of Nikola's claims that they manufacture all of their inverters in-house, there's photographic evidence that their inverters are purchased from a third-party vendor and that in some product shots, tape has been placed over the label for the product identifier. There's plenty of other stuff in this report, which all appears to be well documented and sourced. I'll link the report below if you'd like to give it a read and look at all of the evidence that Hindenburg laid out. So I know that's a lot to take in, but I would really like to know what your thoughts are. Is Nikola the next Tesla or the next Theranos? And how does GM fit into all this? If Nikola is Theranos, is GM Walgreens in this scenario? In my Nikola Badger video, I tried to express some skepticism while still giving Nikola the benefit of the doubt. However, the accusations provided by the Hindenburg Report seem pretty compelling. Again, I would like to caution that this is just one source, and they are certainly not unbiased. So it will be interesting to see how Nikola and Milton respond. At any rate, I have a feeling that we should all get our popcorn ready for the next several months, or perhaps longer. Before I go, I just wanted to thank everyone who has subscribed to my channel. We are quickly approaching 1,000 subscribers, and it would be mind-blowing to hit that mark soon. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you could just click that subscribe button and possibly even hit the thumbs up button while you're at it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.